Alright, this is a video demonstration of the making of oatmeal drop cookies. We may have raisin or coconut or a combination of both added in at the end, but we'll get to that when we come there. Always want to take an overview of our recipe ahead of time to know what it is we need to be getting out, and that is going to be dry ingredients of flour, baking soda, cinnamon, and salt. We know that cinnamon is not kept in our kitchen, so we'll be directed where to find that. We're going to also be adding oats after we make our dough, separate from those flours, so we got to know where that is. We're going to be using margarine today, could switch to butter. For our fat, we're going to need white sugar, which is kept in our kitchen. We're going to need brown sugar, which is not kept in our kitchen. We'll have a review of how to measure it. And then also egg and vanilla. So let's get out our dry ingredients and the sugar that we have and get that together. Alright, so the recipe says that step one, when we're ready to bake, we'll get that oven on to 350. I will do that for you if you've not been instructed how to do that yet. In a small bowl, okay, we're going to stir together our flour, baking soda, cinnamon, and salt. So the flour amount is 3/4 a cup. From our measuring set, we want to get the 1/4 cup. It's such a small amount that we can go ahead and get that in, okay, without having to scoop into it loosely. I might use actually the handle of 1 cup measuring cup to level that off. So 3/4 cup of flour. We're going to be putting that away in just a second when we're done with it. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So baking soda, remember when you get the half, make sure you see it's a TSP. Okay, because this may have the 1/2 tablespoon, it doesn't. So 1/2 TSP or little t. That's my baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon. The 1/4 teaspoon of salt, since the spoons are in my hand. And then the cinnamon, like we said, is up front. So I'll reach off camera to get that done. You guys will get it elsewhere. And a 1/2 teaspoon of that. Those are my dry ingredients. And it says to stir those. So I can stir those together with a fork that we find up front. We'll come back to that. We also are going to need 1.5 cups of oats, preferably old-fashioned. The oats are added at the end. Okay, so oats are added at the end. Very, very important that we don't add those in at the wrong time. So that will be shown to you where that is in class. Okay, so for the oats, it's okay for you to dig in. Okay, the cup, and then 1/2. So I can get that out of the way. And so I'm just going to be putting things away at once. I'm going to go ahead and get my sugar out, okay, which is going to be a 1/4 cup of sugar. So I can get that into this small bowl so that I'm able to put all my items away down below. So remember that we can dig into that, level it off. That's my white sugar. So now that I'm done with the white sugar and the flour and the soda and the salt, it should get put away. Okay, so oats are off to the side. Recall we're not using those right away. If I skip down to where it says the rest of the sugar, it is a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of packed brown sugar. So you guys will come to the center where we tell you to. Remember that, dig that out with a spoon to fill it up and to pack it down. Okay, so that's being packed down. That's your 1/4 cup. It's going in with the white because they're going to be creamed together. And then our 2 tablespoons. Packed down. Okay, and that will be elsewhere in the room, so you guys can get that taken care of by someone coming up and getting it. All right, so for review of the procedures, okay, we've done this before. We're going to take our fat, margarine, could be butter, okay, cream it together with the sugars on low, as the recipe says. Add our wet, which is going to be the egg and vanilla. Okay, then work in our dry, which already still needs to be mixed. And then the recipe says after that dough is done, we add in the oats. Okay, so this is going to be a very wet dough with that small amount of flour before we add the oats. Don't add the two together. Finally, as you look to the very, very bottom, you should make a plan ahead. Decide what other add-ins you want. Half a cup total. Could be raisins, could be coconut, could be both. I will say though that you need to have a separate measuring cup. I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of raisins and a 1/4 cup of coconut. I need you guys to keep these separated with the measuring cups so that we don't get a cross-contamination of a measuring cup touching the coconut and then touching the raisins. Someone may have a coconut allergy and they don't want it in their cookies, so don't put it in there accidentally. So those are my mix-ins. Let me get some of this clutter put away and then we'll get on to the mixing portion of this. All right, we are ready to make our dough now. As instructed in class when we talked about the use of KitchenAid, make sure you guys put your KitchenAid bowl in and it sets real tight, righty-tighty. It's not going to strip on me. We're using the paddle attachment. Make sure you line up this slot here with the nub happens to be underneath, not shown on camera, but I know where it is. I take and make sure that thing is turned off before I go ahead and plug it in. I'm going to take this cord up so it's not dangling. All right, the recipe says that the fat is going to go in, so use a margin for this. Along with our sugars, so there's the brown and white together. I mix that on low, just till it gets cream. Throw away your wrapper when you're done with it. The recipe tells you that if you're using margarine, which you are today, and make sure not to over mix it. Okay, the butter is not going to turn to such a soft matter as quickly as the margarine may. All right, so if I feel like this is mostly getting mixed through and still a little chunky, that's okay. Maybe quick, little speed, but turn it off. I'm going to go ahead and add in my wet, which is my egg, which I cracked before I started the camera up again, and the vanilla. Be aware of where your raw egg is going to be. I'm going to mix that in, again on a lower speed. This one is on 2. And some of these motors have different speeds, even though they're all bought at the same time. It's just kind of weird. So what's low on one machine may not be as fast as on another one. So you're going to have to learn your machines based on the color. All right, so that is a gooey mess. Yeah, but it's going to get smoothed out with the addition of the dry. So here's my dry. That's the flour, soda, salt, and cinnamon. That already got mixed through. I have a spatula here, rubber spatula for scraping down the sides. Mix it in on low. Coming up to a medium, actually a 4 to bring it together. Okay, it's not very much time in mixing. Very, very wet dough, but consistent. Okay, a little bit streaks of margarine, so I'm going to mix just a little bit longer so it gets to be more uniform. Okay, next is the oats, 1.5 cups. Can add that all in. This is going to thicken this up, bind it together. I'm on a 4 speed right now. Again, if you feel like you need to scrape down the sides, turn off the motor completely. Use the rubber spatula to loosen the sides. Get it all into a ball. Okay, before you proceed, this is pretty much a uniform dough now. It's done, don't want to over mix it. And then my add-ins, I'm choosing to use coconut and raisin combined. 1/2 cup total, don't go over that. It's not just so much the inventory. You can lock that in, or for a quick mix, not. But it's not so much the inventory, it is a little bit, but it's also the fact that if you have too many add-ins, okay, it gets to not hold together. All right, so we have this attachment, we take it off. Perfect spot to put it is that bowl that had the spatula in it. I can scrape this down so it comes together into one massive dough. Okay, and then it's going to be time to put these on a sheet pan, so we'll be back in a sec. All right, and we're back ready to get our dough on the cookie sheets and into the oven. Okay, so go ahead and take your KitchenAid bowl out. I have a purple scoop here. The recipe says that we're going to use a sheet pan that's not been sprayed. So here's our air pan. The gray ones are non-stick, but this doesn't mean it's going to stick. We're actually not going to spray this because we want the dough to kind of hit the pan, spread out a little bit by melting, stick, and go up. And if you spray it, it's going to spread out really, really thin. That's how you make like a lace cookie, but that's not what this is. For the purple scoop, maybe going 5 across. Okay, if we didn't overmix this, this is keeping its shape. So that's nice. Okay, if you overmixed it, it would be just kind of a messy goo. So I'm going to say 5 across, maybe 2 rows. That was a little bit over. And you might be using this pan because we're trying to use a variety of pans as we learn things in our kitchen. So it could be that you guys are using this type of pan. Again, I'm going to make sure my scoops are level. Okay, that's like 9 right there, or 11. Could be using that air pan. Could be using this sheet pan with parchment. This happens to be our Teflon mat. Okay, so it allows for an easy release of the cookie. It does need to get washed in between use. For the most part, you might be able to put the same cookie on. Okay. And again, for this one, because it's smaller, it's probably more like 4 across. All right, and this is a half pan, so you potentially could put 2 of these side by side. All right, so scraping up the last of the dough, maybe adding to that. Looks like I've got a total of 6 there, 11 there, about 17 cookies. Okay, and the recipe says that you do not flatten these down. And they're going to go in, let's see, 8 to 10 minutes until golden brown. All right, let's get these bad boys in the oven. 8 to 10 minutes. Oven open! Teflon pan. And the other pan. These cookies are baked for 9 to 11 minutes. So when you feel that they are done golden brown, go ahead and take them out, put them on top of the stove, let them have a chance to cool down for a couple of minutes on the sheet pan to firm up a little bit before you remove them with a spatula. Before we loosen them. All right, so if you go too early, you might smash them. So looks like these, even though they just came out, they're firm enough on the bottom that I could loosen these up. If you go to do this, notice please this is backwards. Sometimes I get better grip. But just to loosen them, they can stay on the sheet pan. They carry over baking. They keep baking some, but if when you do this, they're too soft, they need to stay out a little bit longer to firm up. All right, so letting those loosen up a little bit while they cool down. And on the Teflon pan, just to make sure they're not sticking. Okay, let them hang out on the pan for a little bit longer before they get put onto a cooling rack.